finished off with number 11. We didn't get quite done, but we were looking at what the meanings of these five, the meaning of these five here are, I was going to say words, but really they're phrases even. Natural man, man's wisdom, power of God, wisdom of God, and the spirit of the world. And of course, natural man, just to review just for a moment, the natural man is the physical part of man. Man who is in the physical realm and only looks at, only considers the physical. That's it. And then number 2 is man's wisdom. Again, staying with that wisdom that deals only with the physical realm. So man's wisdom is derived only from what is experienced in the physical realm. And so, don't you hate it when you are, perhaps you're faced with a decision, whatever that decision is, and you make the very best decision that you possibly can in the moment, only later to find out that there was information that you had no idea when you made your decision. Yet had you had that information, you would have made perhaps even the opposite decision. Well, that's what man's wisdom is. When people make decisions, but yet they do not consider the spiritual, then they're making those decisions based on half, really even less than half, of what really is the possibility or reality out there. All right, then number 3, the power of God. We talked about this last week. God's power includes, but is not limited to, the physical realm. So when we talk about creation, God's power in creating something out of nothing, and just by His word, He was able to create something. Psalm 19:1, the heavens declare the glory of God, confirms and shows His handiwork. So he's able to display His glory by the physical realm, but God's power is not limited to the physical. Rather, His primary power is in the spiritual realm. And so that's when we talk about Matthew 9:5, the paralytic man was let down in the rooftop. And what did Jesus do? He said, "Son, thy sins be forgiven thee." And of course, we did all the pearl clutching, kind of idea as well. And to prove that it was actually easier to do things in the physical realm than the spiritual, He said, "Rise up and walk." And so He performed a miracle. Yet His question was, what's easier? To say, "Thy sins be forgiven thee," or "Rise up and walk"? And of course, it is infinitely more difficult to say, "Thy sins be forgiven thee." And they actually be forgiven. So, a human being can say, "Oh, child, thy sins be forgiven." Are they forgiven? A human being, born of woman, naturally. Can that individual say, "Thy sins be forgiven thee"? Does that person have the authority to do anything about sin? The answer is no. No. No coat, no sash, no piece of paper, nothing gives someone that authority. So, the only human being, the one who possessed the what's the word I'm looking for? Just the nature of humanity, human being. The only one that has the authority to forgive sin, who had human nature, is of course Jesus Christ. Because does He only have human nature? No. He is human, has human nature, but he also has what kind of nature? Divine nature. That's exactly right. And so he was both at once and had the authority, even while in human form, he had the ability and the authority to forgive sin. Matthew 28, verse 18. So that's where God's true power comes. He can actually reconcile souls from being lost to being saved back to himself. That is tremendous, tremendous. Any thoughts or questions, ideas about that before we move on? Because that's kind of where we ended last week. Any thoughts or questions? All right, number D is, that's letter D. What about the wisdom of God? And the wisdom of God is his ability to carry out his will regardless of what man does or does not do. God is able to accomplish whatever it is that he wants to or needs to accomplish. God does have some wants, and he's able to accomplish those. So whatever his, the outcome that he wants to see come about, those things are going to occur. So we go to a couple passages here, Romans 11 and verse 33. Oh, the depth of both the riches and the wisdom and knowledge of God. How unsearchable are his judgments and his ways past finding out. There's just no way that we can fully comprehend the depth of the wisdom, the knowledge that God has. And of course, because, and we talked about this Sunday in our sermon, that his judgment is based on his what? Do you remember? God's judgment is based on his, we did talk about mercy, but that's not what his judgment is based on. It's in the passage. The word isn't there, the concept is in this passage. The word isn't in here, but the concept is. Listen to it. Oh, the depth of the riches, both of the wisdom and knowledge of God. How unsearchable are his judgments, his ways past finding out. What does that create between God and us? We can't even search it. They're past us. They're beyond us. They're out of our reach. God is what? Starts with an H. Holy. That's exactly right. You have to read holiness in here. God is, he's beyond us. He's past us. I can't get to him just because I want to. He has to come to me because he is holy, you see. And so his judgments are based on that holiness. So are his judgments going to be right? Every single time. Every single time. And that's what the passage is talking about. Those judgments in his holiness, then, when he acts, and here's the other thing. This is what you need to understand about God with everything else. One thing you also need to understand about God is God does not react. God is not reactive. Are we reactive? Every day. Every day we react to, here's a situation, here's a relationship, here's, information, data, whatever. We react. God does not react. It's unnecessary. That's how powerful he is. He doesn't even have to react because he already knows everything that's going to happen from the very beginning. So there's no reaction necessary. He's already put everything in motion to receive or to get done what he needs to get done. That's his wisdom. So what do we try to do? We're never going to be where we just don't have to react. We're always going to have to react in some form or fashion because we're limited. So unfortunately for us, living in time and bound by time, there's always going to be that I have to react to things. Because I don't know what's coming up in the next moment. I don't know that. I couldn't tell you. But God already knows what's there, you see. So in some ways, I'm going to have to react. In many ways, I'm going to have to react. But I can still make my mind up that regardless of the situation, I'm going to obey God. Okay? So then regardless of what happens, it's not a reaction. I've already made up my mind to do what God says to do. So it doesn't matter what other information comes in. My priority is God. I already know what the outcome is before I get there. So that's where we want to try to be as much as we possibly can. Now, again, we're not going to be able to do that 100%, are we? We're not God. So there you are. But we can do better in that way when we tap into God's wisdom. And where do we find God's wisdom? In His Word. That's where we tap into His wisdom. And then finally, any thoughts or questions about the wisdom of God? Thoughts or questions, ideas? All right, and then finally, the spirit of the world. The spirit of the world is disobedience. I want it my way. Okay? And Ephesians chapter 2 and verse 2, Paul says, look, Jesus made you alive, even though, this verse 1, you were dead in your trespasses and sins, but because of His sacrifice, He made you alive. Where in time past you walked according to the course of this world, according to the prince of the power of the air, the spirit that now worketh in the children of disobedience, among whom also we all had our conversation, the way that we live, in time past in the lust of our flesh, fulfilling the desires of the flesh and of the mind, and were by nature the children of wrath, even as others. So Paul paints a pretty bleak picture here, does he not? Of the world, the spirit of the world. He's like, look, the spirit of the world is against God. You're walking according to the flesh, physical only. You know, this idea of hedonism is do those things, you know, that cause the greatest pleasure for self. There are also other philosophies of men where it's, well, just do as little harm. It's not Hippocratic oath or anything, but it's close to it. Do as little harm, whatever decision you make, do as little harm to others and self as you possibly can. Well, it sounds nice on the outside, because you're like, oh, well, I shouldn't hurt people. Well, no, that's not what it says. It says, do as little harm as possible. That's a very different scenario. How are Christians to act one toward another? How are we to act? The golden rule. Okay, what does the golden rule say?
Do unto others as you would have them do unto you.
Here's the thing about Christianity is that, well, let's first go from the spirit of the world. The spirit of the world is self-centered. So I look at everything from my point of view, always. Now, some philosophies are, well, I don't want to hurt other people. Again, that sounds nice, but that's from my point of view. Christianity is not self-centered, it's who-centered? It's Christ-centered. So what Christ says is, you make sure you have the other person in mind, and whatever you want done to you, you do that to them. You, in essence, I don't want to use the word pretend, but you treat others like you would treat Christ himself. You have a relationship as much as you possibly can. Now, are some people not going to allow you to do that? That's on them. But some people are just not going to allow you to treat them nice. I don't know why that's the case. Have you ever tried to treat somebody nice and they just wouldn't allow you to do it? It's the most frustrating thing. Look, I'm trying to treat you like Christ over here, and you're just refusing to, accept my niceness. And of course, definitely not going to reciprocate that either, right? But Christianity is Christ-centered so that not only am I nice and loving toward those that are family and friends and brethren, because it's easy to be nice to Ricardo, right? That's easy to do. We love Ricardo. It's like falling off an oil log going down the rapids, okay? Easy to be nice to Ricardo. It's not quite as easy to be nice to Chad, okay? Whatever enemy that I might have, it's not quite as easy to be nice to them or do good for or toward them, is it? But that's what Jesus expects out of me, is that I'm still, regardless of what the other person does or doesn't do, I still have to have their best interest in heart. And I have to act that way toward them. Regardless of how I feel, that doesn't enter into the equation. So the spirit of the world says everything is self-centered. The spirit of Christ says everything is him-centered. And I need to treat others as he would treat them, not as I want to treat them. Any thoughts or questions, ideas? Yes, sir.
First of all, about treating your enemies. In the Old Testament, I believe it was either Proverbs or Psalm. It advises us to feed our enemies, to shelter them, etc., because it pours hot coals on their head. And that stuck with me for a long time. And so the other thing is, let's see. I'm sorry, I lost my train of thought.
No, that's okay. That's okay. That's Proverbs 25:22, but it's also reiterated in Romans 12, verse 20, that, when you seek out the good for others, especially your enemy, that's what you do. You heap coals on his head. Who knows? Of course, some people are hard-headed. Maybe they don't get the memo. But some people might feel guilty. Well, I was very ugly to that person, and they only did, they only treated me very well. So that's a possibility. You had one more thing?
I remembered it now.
Okay, good.
Let's see. When we're talking about taking care of others as treating them as Christ, is that our neighbors or our brothers and sisters only, or the whole world?
That would be everyone with whom we come in contact. Everyone. It would be, we do have to prioritize, obviously, when that comes down to that. But let's say let's take an everyday occurrence. I'm going to the grocery store. Is that an everyday occurrence? It seems like it. And I get the smallest basket that I can, and yet I still spend a whole lot of money. How's that? Anyway, okay, I know that. Now, I'm going to the grocery store, and let's say I get an item I want a particular cut of meat at the butcher. Okay, so I go back to the meat counter and ask for it. They don't give me the right cut of meat. Okay, instead of the filet mignon, I'm not getting. But instead of that, which I ordered, they gave me sirloin steak. Okay. Now I'm going to go back to the butcher and I'm going to give them what for? Is that what I, as a Christian, am supposed to do? Does it mean that I just take the sirloin and pay for the fillet? No. So, I can still say, hey, I ordered this. This is what I received. Can you make it right? But as Christians, how we handle those disputes and disagreements, that matters. Because we still have to uphold our integrity. We still have to have others see Christ in us, even though it's a difficult situation. Could be. What we don't want is to go in and just blast people away, and we're going to ask for 5 managers, and heads are going to roll. Those kind of situations. But Christians don't do that. And by the way, if it's between your integrity and Christianity and losing a few dollars, what should you choose? Let's lose a couple bucks, because are you going to be able to take that with you anyway? No, but you're going to take your integrity into heaven. You see about the priorities? Now that's easier said than done, isn't it? Than much easier said. We get all emotional about, oh, I didn't get what I paid for this. Take it easy sometimes. Take it easy. Now, again, there are certain situations, where it still is right and good to stand up for yourself. I'm not saying just take everything people give to you. That's not what I'm saying. All I am saying is that we can stand up for ourselves and be Christians while we're doing it. That's all I'm saying. Okay? I mean, if we go and we buy a lemon, we're gonna have to take some action. Okay? Because if we don't, somebody else is going to be in the same situation, are they not? We don't want that either. You see? Because there are genuinely bad people out there. And so we have to understand that too. All right?
Now also people always think they're right.
That is also true. People who believe they're always right. Yeah, this is true as well.
Because I had an example of that while I was still teaching.
Uh-huh.
A student who lost his book.
Right.
Mama, who happened to be a teacher, gave me.
Right.
And
So a student lost their book, the mama who was a teacher just let you have it, and now what's the rest of the story?
I took the book off. A few months later, they found the book.
Oh,
No apologies.
found the book, no apology.
Well, it could be.
You can't even write that, that happens all the time. People make a mistake and then they just never apologize.
But she swore up and down. He didn't take it.
Yeah, he didn't take
He
it.
didn't check it out.
Sigh. And
I was gonna say, what I like to do is when these parents upset me, I'd like to go into my office and close my door and pray real hard.
prayer.
Because if I pick up that phone right away,
Right,
I'm gonna be saying something that doesn't need to be said.
right, yeah.
And I just have a good team where I can just say, talk to me right now, because I'm very upset, and I'm gonna say is how we handle ourselves. And when we know we're angry, we need to go in an office, close the door, and don't pick up the phone. That's all I can say. Don't pick up the phone.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And pray.
Yep, yep,
Pray.
yep. And, you know, when you're in a bad situation like that, or, you know, a challenging situation, I should say, you know, prayer should be the very first thing that the Christian is thinking about. You know, I'm going to tap into my spirituality and go to the source of help and hope. And when I have a bigger perspective than just the moment, then that's going to help me deal with the moment in a much better way.
I pray before we have meetings.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
I pray in front, I'll ask the parents, hey, let's have a word prayer.
Yeah.
And, you know, there's no Christians or members of the church in that meeting.
Mhm.
So I pray before the meeting, asking God for wisdom. And I think it sets the tone that people know that you care
Right.
and that you are different.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Because we're asking Him for wisdom.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, and of course, then I've also been, and you probably have too, you know, been in meetings where the meeting might have started off with a prayer, but it quickly devolved into the other realm. You know, as though the prayer had not been uttered. But at least we try to put it on, you know, have the right, start on the right foot, right? When,
I would say it's just dealing with people. Yeah, you got a faith and you believe, it's just dealing with unbelievers that don't believe what you believe.
right.
Trying to make peace, but it's like a never-ending war.
Right.
That makes sense.
Oh, yes. Oh, yeah. And that's why we have to be diligent all the time, right? Because it's not going to end. It's going to continue.
Yeah.
Wherever we are, there's going to be those situations and those individuals that, you know, challenge our Christianity. You know, I know she's gone, but my mother-in-law challenged my Christianity. Jennifer will tell you that. She'll tell you. But I got better, I think. I didn't start off too good, by the way. I just wanted to let you know. I probably said some things, did some things that probably were less Christ-like than they ought to have been. But those issues really never went anywhere. But how I dealt with those issues, you know, how I dealt with it, that changed. And when I started dealing with it in a Christ-like way, then it helped me. I don't know if it helped anybody else. I don't know if it helped Jennifer. I don't know if it helped Miss Brayberry. I don't know who it did or didn't help. But I felt better about it. How about that? And
I was going to say, Rob and I work together, so
yeah,
we make it.
yeah. If y'all can make it, anybody can. That's right. All right.
Mr. Garner.
Allie, yes,
I
ma'am.
might be short, but you can still see.
Yeah, I'm sorry. And you know what? I did see your hand up, and I apologize.
I know.
That's why he was pointing the camera.
Yeah.
I can't see her.
But there have been times, like on TikTok, where I'll be commenting with people, and we'll get into a discussion, and they'll ask, like, what denomination I am. And I'll say non-denominational, I'm Christian. And someone else will jump in the conversation, and I've actually had someone ask me, well, as a Christian, how do you all determine who to love and who to hate? And I said, I just love all the people that God created.
There you go.
And they were like, well, yeah, but everyone sins. And I was like, yeah, I sin.
Right.
But I was like, you can love the person, but hate the sin.
Absolutely.
Like, you don't hate the sinner just because they sin, because everyone sins.
Yeah, that's exactly right. You know, that'd be self-loathing right there, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
You are correct, and you know that's good that, especially today when we have social media. And I wasn't going to get into this, but you started it, so I'm going to go down the rabbit hole. Because even those of us, even though we were talking about 8 is enough before, those of us who know what that is, we still are in a social media AI world now, right? And the rules have not changed just because the toys have. Make sense? It doesn't matter what technology is around. We still have to be Christ-like and treat other people. Now, this is the thing, is that so many people in social media, they're in a room by themselves, let's say, behind a screen, behind a keyboard, and think whatever I input here, and the tone, there's a definite tone, and the words that are used, that whatever I say and however it is said is acceptable. Well, let me tell you something, it is not. If you speak it or if you write it and it is against God and you are treating someone else in an unloving, unchristian-like manner, that's sinful, folks. We have these it literally is in my pocket. Oh, no, it isn't. It's right here. I was about to say it's in my pocket. No, that's my lapel mic. Sorry. Oh, that's what's in my pocket. We have these pocket computers. Oh, my dad called me. Sigh. He don't need nothing. I'm not going to call him back. That just made my point, didn't it? My dad is on the other side of the planet, and I can talk to her. Every human being essentially is at our fingertips. And how I treat that person, if I sent Dad a text right now, what are you doing? Why are you bothering me? I'm serious. What if I sent him a text like that? Is that sinful? I'm telling you, it is sinful. And we are to honor our fathers and our mothers. And if we don't honor them, that is sin. And if I don't repent, I'm going to be lost for not honoring father and mother. I don't get to, just because I'm in Bible class and he's trying to call me, be disrespectful. That's not happening. So social media, TikTok, Instagram, we have to be careful about how we go about interacting with others. And hopefully, Allie, like you said, they do see, this person does not type back, doesn't text back, maybe videos, right? In the videos, TikTok videos, there's no cursing, there's modesty. This person is different than everybody else. Because what do we see on TikTok? Cursing, terrible music that we can't even get out of all that. People in the most immodest clothing and just worldliness, right? We can't be involved in that. You see, that's the spirit of the world. And we ought to be as far from those situations as we possibly can. Now, can we run away from it completely? No, because, folks, it's part of our everyday lives, to one degree or another. But we can limit those things. And we definitely limit our children on those things, too, quite a bit. We should do that as well. All right. True or false? True or false? Only 5 true or false for chapter 2. Paul's excellency of speech was the principal thing that won the Corinthians to Christ. Is that true or false? False. False. He said, not my excellency of speech. Number 2, Paul said that the wisdom of the world and the princes of the world would come to naught. True. Number 3, the princes or rulers of the world did not know the hidden wisdom. That is true. Yes, that's true. All right, the fact that Paul was in weakness, fear, and much trembling showed that he was a weakling. No, that's definitely false. That's definitely false. And number 5, Paul mentions only the wisdom of men in this chapter. That's also false, obviously. Talk about the wisdom of God as well. Okay, well that's it for chapter 2. Hey, we made it. There you go. All right. I also did chapter 3. We will not get through all of chapter 3, especially since it's 7:38. And we only have just a few minutes here. But we can get into chapter 3, no problem with this. All right. So chapter 3, hang on. And I, brethren, this is verse 1 of chapter 3. And I, brethren, could not speak unto you as unto spiritual, but as unto carnal, even as unto babes in Christ. So remember that there were no chapter divisions, no verse divisions. So all of those things that he's talking about in chapter 2, the spirit of the world and the wisdom of God, he's continuing those same thoughts here in chapter 3. It's a little bit different, and which is why we have a chapter division. It's a different perspective, but he's still bringing those themes continued in chapter 3. So he says, I couldn't speak unto you as unto spiritual, but as unto carnal, even as unto babes in Christ. Now what does carnal mean? Secular, fleshly, physical. So that's what carnal means. It means those things that deal with the flesh or the physical. And verse 2 says, look, I fed you with milk and not with meat. What does he mean there?
Treating you as a babe instead of a more advanced Christian.
Oh, there you go. So he's treating these individuals, this church, as babes in Christ instead of spiritually mature individuals. I fed you with milk of the word, not with meat, for hitherto, up until this point, you were not able to bear it, neither yet now are ye able. Why? For ye are yet carnal. For whereas there is among you envy, strife, divisions, are ye not carnal and walk as men? While one says, I know Paul, another, I know Apollos, are you not yet carnal? Who then is Paul? Who's Apollos? But the ministers by whom you believe, even as the Lord gave every man. I planted, Apollos watered, but God gave the increase. So then, neither is he that planteth anything, neither is he that watereth, but God that giveth the increase. Now he that planteth and he that watereth are what? One. And every man shall receive his own reward according to his own labor. For we are laborers together with God. Ye are God's husbandry, ye are God's building, according to the grace of God which is given unto me, as a wise master builder. I have laid the foundation, and another buildeth thereon. But let every man take heed how he buildeth thereon. For other foundation can no man lay than that is laid, which is Jesus Christ. Now, if any man build upon this foundation gold, silver, precious stones, wood, hay, stubble, every man's work shall be made manifest, for the day shall declare, because it shall be revealed by fire, and the fire shall try every man's work of what sort it is. If any man's work abide, which he hath built thereon, he shall receive a reward. If any man's work shall be burned, the hay and the stubble, the wood, hay, stubble, by the way, he shall suffer loss, but he himself, he shall be saved, yet so as by fire. Know ye not that ye are the temple of God, and that the Spirit of God dwelleth in you? If any man defile the temple of God, him shall God destroy. For the temple of God is holy, which temple ye are. Let no man deceive himself. If any man among you seem to be wise in this world, let him become a fool, please, that he may be wise. For the wisdom of this world is foolishness with God. For it is written, He taketh the wise in our craftiness. And again, the Lord knoweth the thoughts of the wise, that they are vain. Therefore, let no man glory in men, for all things are yours. Paul, Apollos, Cephas, the world, life, death, things present, or things to come. They're all yours. And ye are Christ's, and Christ is God's. So that is chapter 3. A lot of very interesting ideas here. A lot of very interesting ideas. Some things you're like, what is he talking about? And listen, really and truly, the New Testament, sometimes Paul has a way of putting things, okay, what is this particular phrase modifying? What word is it modifying? What is it going back to? Where is it attached to? And when you find the connections there, then you understand. Then it's, oh, okay, well that makes sense. But this is classic Apostle Paul, chapter 3, right here. He's telling the brethren in Corinth, look, you are still babes in Christ. You are still thinking like worldly individuals. You have not completely come out of needing milk of the Word. You're still making decisions and thinking in the ways of the world, not how Christ would have you to think. And I taught you better than that. And you want to go out, you want to make Christians, you better be careful of how you do that. Because not everybody's going to turn out the way that you think they're going to turn out. Certainly the Apostle Paul had those who obeyed the gospel that he baptized. Not that he baptized, but he had other people baptized. He preached and people obeyed the gospel. Not all those individuals are saved, are they? Some of them turn back into the world. Hence the book of Hebrews as well. All right? Number one, could what Paul... No, never mind, forget that. Well, perfect. I ended just right, didn't I? I did. All right. Where's my Max? See, I give him a job, doesn't even show up. Oh, there he is. There he is. Ah. He snuck in here is what he did. All right, come on, Max. All right. Put that